The thought of going back to work on Monday fills you with dread, not because the work itself, but because of the people who you do it with. That might be an indicator that you're experiencing the specific type of burnout, the toxic dynamic burnout. My name is Rachel. I am a somatic therapist and coach. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down what toxic dynamic burnout is, which comes from my burnout clarity framework. There's 6 different types. I'm going to drop the link below. You can take a free quiz if you want to see which type or types you're experiencing. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what toxic dynamic burnout is, the signs you can look out for to see if that's the type you are experiencing. I'm going to give you some strategies to address this type of burnout, as well as 2 somatic practices that you can use to help to regulate the nervous system and relieve stress to start to reclaim your energy at work. So toxic dynamic burnout isn't necessarily about the work itself. It is about the people you're doing it with, the interpersonal dynamics at work, the culture of the workplace. So if there is unhealthy dynamics, if there's cattiness, gossiping, if there's a lot of unspoken rules you have to navigate at work, if there is either a lot of secrecy that happens, like you come in one day and a person is just gone, you have no idea what happened, or it could be the other side where there is an expectation that you share a lot about your personal life and there's not clear boundaries between work and your personal life. That can also create some unhealthy dynamics. So what happens is your body, even if it's not a physical stress, this is a more relational or emotional stress, it is activated and it is going into a stress response that is kind of there all the time. It's turned on because you're navigating an unsafe environment. And so this type of burnout can be hard to spot because often it might be like you get to the end of the day and it's just like I didn't have too much to work. Why am I so drained? But it's these small little interactions that can add up over time that really deplete you. And I want you to know that this doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. This doesn't mean you just have to push through. This is your body responding to an unhealthy environment. So here are some signs to look out for that will let you know you might be experiencing this type of burnout. The first one is just kind of a general sense of dread of going into work, and not because of the work, but knowing you're going to have to deal with certain people. And then it could also be getting home from work and replaying conversations or worrying about kind of how you presented or what you did or how this person is going to respond or if other people are talking about you. Like those are both signs that there might be a toxic dynamic happening at work. Another sign is that you feel like you have to be navigating, reading the room, kind of looking out, being on edge, your body is bracing for what might come next. And then you're also either experiencing or witnessing a lot of passive aggressiveness, microaggressions, gossiping. Even if it isn't directed at you, your body is registering that as unsafe. Another sign is that you might go quiet in situations where you used to say something or stand up for yourself or advocate for someone else, and now you just kind of pull into yourself. And another one is you might just feel this sense of tension in the body, like you're kind of just wound up all the time, ready for something to go bad. And that's really hard to actually relax and turn that off at the end of the week. And then the final one is you might start to doubt your own read on things or start to question, am I just making this up? Am I being too sensitive? Maybe I'm just seeing something that's not there. You start to kind of distrust your own experience. And this last one I really want to pause on because toxic environments often function by getting you to question yourself and your experience. And especially if you are sensitive or empathic, this can be deeply true because you are picking up and reading the energy of the room in a different way, that you can start to take that on as your own and like something's wrong with you. I just want you to know that it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you when there is this toxic stress in a workplace. This doesn't happen out of nowhere. There are conditions that tend to create this type of environment. If there's one person at work, it could just be an interpersonal thing like that. One person and you, and the rest of the people feel cool. Like that is very different than if there is a culture that creates a toxic workplace. And some of the things that are going to just always create that type of workplace, when there's a lack of transparency about how decisions are made, what is happening. Like if you are constantly in a state of having things come down from the top and no one is talking about it, no one's giving direct feedback, that leads to these other ways of people trying to get their needs met that often just lead more and more into this toxic dynamic. Another big piece is the way power is structured in the organization and the way it is not talked about. So often when there is a lack of clarity around who has power, how that power is being used, that creates a lot of distrust. And it can be one of those things that is like, am I making this up? When you're like, things are more hierarchical. We want things to be hierarchical, but there is power. Like there's always power dynamics happening. And if they're not stated, it can lead to a sense of just distrust and danger in the body. This can happen when there are environments where people are either scapegoated or they're held to different standards. And this could be for a variety of reasons. It could be about identity. There could be racism. There could be sexism happening or ableism. Or it could just be like particular people and personalities. When that's happening, it actually creates a culture where no one feels safe. Organizations that respond to harm by protecting the organization instead of protecting the person that was harmed. So a big sign of this is if something happens and you don't feel like you can go to HR or someone in the organization to address it because you know and have heard from other people that they're not going to take you seriously. Like they're going to do what they can to protect the organization over you and your experience. So this isn't about just one person. It is about dynamics within the culture that then reinforce and replicate themselves through individual people. If you are a sensitive person, if you are really attuned, empathic, this type of environment can hit particularly hard. Because when you are in a healthy environment, what an amazing skill. You are able to kind of read the room, notice what's happening, bring really valuable insights. But in this toxic type of environment, there is so much stress that is just kind of living in the space, even if it's a virtual space, and you're picking up on that all the time. So part of it is you're trying to make sense of what that is. That takes a lot of energy. Another part is you are just picking it up and your body has to process it in a different way than someone who might be able to just stay on the surface level of the experience, or that's just impossible for you. Like you're picking it up. It is a visceral experience. And so as a sensitive person in this type of environment, these somatic practices and tools are so important. So you know how to get rid of some of this energy and protect your own energy so it doesn't just suck the life out of you. All right, I'm going to walk you through 4 strategies you can use if you're experiencing this type of burnout. I just want to be really clear that this does not mean that you can actually change the toxic environment you're in or the toxic dynamics. You can change your part in them. And you showing up differently might shift some of the dynamics, and there's only so much in your control. So as we go through this, I really want you to think about this less being about you have to fix the environment and you thinking about you taking care of yourself within an environment that is not healthy for you. The first one is being able to really identify the dynamics that are happening. And this can be hard when you are in them because it's easy to get wrapped up in gossiping and the kind of like hush hush talking, or to get wrapped up into this like we're a family vibe, even though there's something about it that doesn't feel totally right in your body. And so I think an easy way to think about this is almost try to go into work watching the dynamics like you're watching a movie, or maybe it's more like a reality show of like what is happening here. Be really objective to see the dynamics, what is going on, being able to name when there is a weird, like passive aggressive comment, or when things are happening behind closed doors, or there's a little microaggression, right? Where, or just like feeling that, like, oh, that did not sit right. I'm just getting really clear, kind of like you're doing an experiment, you're an observer watching what's happening, and start to name these different things as you're seeing them happen. You could do this just mentally. You might want to write it down, take notes, put it in your little notes app on your phone, whatever helps you to just see clearly what's happening, so you stop feeling like it is your fault, that you are just not being a team player, that you need to just kind of put your own feelings or needs aside. We want to do this because your body usually knows the stress is there. If you're burnt out, your body has been registering that there's this stressful environment. And we're just helping the mind to align with what the body already knows. And then the second one is protecting your energy. So once you can like see things a little more clearly after your little detective work, you can start to really think about where you can start pulling your energy away. And I say energy because sometimes this might mean you can physically leave a space, or you don't go to the happy hour, or you skip a meeting you don't have to go to. But sometimes you don't have the choice and you still have to be interacting with people all the time. You still have to go to meetings. Like that's work often, right? We can't choose when and where we show up often. So part of it is how much energy do you give someone? How much of your emotional energy do you give someone? How much are you saying to them? How much are you trying to fix or change them? It's like, how do you just start like pulling that back? How do you stop getting pulled into the gossiping or the passive aggressiveness? How do you be direct even if someone else isn't being direct? It's about like learning to kind of reclaim your power and make choices from that place instead of just getting wrapped up into everyone else's stuff. And sometimes this might mean you do take more space, like you physically get out of the environment if you can, or you take little breaks if you can to just get a break from the environment or the people. And then, like, it could be much more subtle about how you're going about protecting your energy. The third one is about creating space for yourself. So, this is, yes, kind of connected to protecting your energy, but the difference here is once you protect your energy, you're able to create space for yourself to notice what's actually happening with you. So this could be like you're taking time by yourself, or it's just like a little break to check in with yourself, what you're actually experiencing, what's going on in your mind and body, because it can be really easy to just get wrapped up in the toxic dynamic that it's hard to connect to yourself. You're experiencing what you need. And this also can be about creating space outside of work to really deeply connect to yourself, finding moments of solitude, finding ways to get out of the kind of toxic chronic stress you're experiencing to places that are rejuvenating, where you can actually rest, where you feel safe, where you can restore, so that when you have to go back to work, you feel like you have some more reserves to deal with whatever might be happening. And then the fourth strategy is, how can you get an outside perspective? Because sometimes when you are in a toxic dynamic, if that's with one person, if it's with multiple people, it can just be normalized. Like very unhealthy ways of relating get normalized. So getting an outside perspective, it can be from a friend, a therapist, a coach, anyone who is kind of outside of the dynamic that is wise and you trust their opinion to help you navigate and see patterns that you might not be able to see when you're in it. So it can just be really helpful to have someone be like, oh, that doesn't seem good. That doesn't seem like something that should be happening. Because when you're in it, you're just trying to navigate, stay safe, get paid so you can live your life. But it can be helpful to have that outside perspective to help you see kind of what's happening, bringing the little experiments you did of observation and getting feedback so you can better understand and identify when those small little rubs happen and you're like, "Ooh, is that me being sensitive, or was that really kind of me?" And so I think having that outside perspective can be really imperative to help you build that trust with yourself and bolster yourself to deal with whatever's happening in the environment. All right, I'm going to offer you two somatic practices here. So practices, we're going to be working with the body and the nervous system. These are not going to make the toxic dynamics go away, but they are going to be able to shift how you are feeling, shift the stress response in your body, and hopefully give you enough sense of like, I got this, to be able to go in and bolster yourself from just getting wrapped up in the whirlwind of the toxic dynamics and protecting yourself against it. All right, this first practice we're going to do is seated. You just come to a comfortable position, and this one we're really working on feeling the boundaries of our body and working with our breath to protect ourselves from the toxic stress that is around you. So just start by finding a comfortable seat. You could have your eyes closed, or you could have just a soft focus. And then you want to think about lengthening up through the spine and just feeling this sense of your lower body getting heavy as you lengthen up through the top of your head. And then from here, you're just going to cross your arms over so you're grabbing opposite shoulders with your hands and just start to squeeze your arms. Squeeze down towards the elbows and then down towards the wrists. And as you're doing this, you can go back the other way. Start to really feel the edges of your body, kind of where you end, where the air begins, and then you can just take to the squeezing to other parts of your body. You can squeeze the neck, squeezing down the shoulders, down the torso, just using your sense of touch to feel the edges of the body. You could go down your legs if you'd like. And then when you feel complete with that process, just take a moment pausing for a second, and then sensing into the edges of your body, this time without the physical feedback, but just noticing where your body begins and ends. And starting to deepen your breath. So inviting your breath to move into your belly as you inhale. Exhale, pulling your belly towards your spine. And on the inhale, imagine your breath kind of filling the body. And exhale, imagine a release of air out through the tailbone, through the feet. The inhales, imagine just filling your body with your own experience. And exhales, releasing other people's stress, other people's expectations, other people's emotions, down, out through the body into the ground. And then see if you can even start to, as you inhale, imagine filling past your physical body, allowing your energy to take up more space. And as you allow yourself to take up more space, you can just imagine there's a gentle encouragement that other people's stuff isn't welcome within this space. Unless you're inviting it in. This isn't about being selfish or telling other people to go away. It's just about giving yourself space to be, to breathe. You can almost imagine there's a bubble around your body. And you get to choose what comes into that bubble. And you might even see if there's anything you want to put outside that bubble, even just for now. And then as you're ready, you can start to bring your awareness back to your body. Maybe awareness of the breath. And then as you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so there's a few parts to that. And I think there's ways you can use that either throughout the day, like just a simple hugging, squeezing the body can be a reminder of like, this is me. I am here. When you're getting wrapped up, it also helps to calm the nervous system. And then if you have a little more time, really creating that space for your own experience, going a little deeper into it, can be helpful then when you have to go back and interact with other people. All right, for this practice, there's going to be two versions. You could do just the arm movements, or you could do kind of a full body movement with this one. So if you want to do the standing version, you're going to bring your feet wide apart, probably about wrist distance apart if you bring your arms out. We're going to bring our feet to point a little bit out to the side. And then we're going to bring our hands to our heart. So if you're doing this in seated, you're just moving the arms and not worrying about. All right, so from this position, we're going to inhale here. And then exhale, you're going to bend your knees out towards your toes as you push your hands forward and away. And then inhale, pulling your hands together as you straighten your legs. So you're making this big circle with your arms. And inhale, coming back. And then the next time you exhale, pushing away, really imagine like you're creating this space for yourself. You're sending everyone else's energy, expectations, stress back to them, and you're just calling back in your own energy. So you're releasing that out, and then inhale, calling back your own. Just moving with your breath. If it feels okay, you might want to try to close your eyes and really focus on this release on the exhale. Inhale, a deeper sense of coming back to yourself. And then next time you come into this pose, arms out to the side, really feeling like these are just a gentle no, a stop. Can't take your shit today. In a gentle, loving way, out to the side. And really feeling that same sense of protecting your space, allowing yourself to take up space without getting swayed or pulled into anyone else's drama. And then as you're ready, you can just come back to where you started. If your feet are wide, bringing them back together. And just take a moment to notice how you're feeling now. I hope you feel a little more grounded, a little more connected to yourself. I hope you have some strategies and tools you can use to start to reclaim your energy, protect yourself from the toxic workplace dynamics you're experiencing. And thank you for coming to my channel. I'm going to drop the link again to that quiz below if you want to explore what type or types of burnout you might be experiencing. And I'll also drop a playlist for my burnout clarity framework. It goes through a little more about each of these types of burnout, as well as has like a somatic practices you can use to help reclaim your energy at work. And thank you for coming to my channel, the place you can slow down and tune in. And I can't wait to see you in the next video.